Stop for just a moment, because what you are about to hear could completely change the way you see your love story. Imagine discovering that someone deeply connected to your soul has been carrying a truth so powerful and so unexpected that it has the potential to transform everything you thought you knew about your future. What if the delays you have been frustrated by were never signs of rejection? What if the silence you have been trying to understand was actually preparing both of you for a moment that neither of you could have handled before now? Most people spend years searching for answers in the outside world, never realizing that the greatest revelations begin within. The strange coincidences, the unexpected endings, the dreams that refuse to leave your mind, and the quiet feeling that something life-changing is approaching may not be random at all. They could be pieces of a much larger story that has been unfolding beyond your awareness. Today, we are going to explore why the most shocking news from your soulmate does not arrive when you demand it. It arrives when you are finally ready to understand it. Stay with me until the very end, because the final insight may completely change the way you look at love, destiny, and the incredible journey that is still waiting for you. Many people spend their lives believing that if their soulmate truly had something important to say, it would already have happened. They imagine that destiny works on a simple schedule, where love appears the moment they desire it. Yet life rarely follows the expectations of the conscious mind. The deepest messages do not arrive through force, impatience, or endless searching. They emerge quietly, often after an invisible process has already been unfolding beneath the surface for months or even years. What if the shocking news your soulmate carries is already moving toward you, not through ordinary words, but through the unseen currents of transformation that connect two lives long before they stand face to face? Every meaningful relationship begins in a place that cannot be touched by logic alone. Before two people truly recognize each other, something begins to shift inside both of them. Old beliefs lose their grip. Priorities begin to change. Habits that once felt permanent suddenly seem empty. This is not coincidence. It is the inner world preparing itself to receive something that the old version of you could never fully understand. The message your soulmate carries is not simply information. It is an invitation to become someone capable of receiving a deeper kind of love. Think about the times when life unexpectedly pushed you away from people, places, or dreams you thought you could never live without. At the time, those moments probably felt unfair or confusing. Yet, looking back, many of those endings quietly redirected your path toward experiences that shaped your character. The same hidden process may be unfolding now. What appears to be delay may actually be preparation. What feels like silence may actually be movement taking place beyond your awareness. The most powerful messages rarely arrive when the mind is filled with fear, desperation, or the need for certainty. A restless heart often cannot recognize what is standing directly in front of it. That is why life sometimes creates periods of waiting. During those seasons, your attention slowly shifts inward. You begin questioning old patterns. You become aware of emotional wounds you once ignored. You start understanding why certain relationships repeated the same painful lessons. Without realizing it, you are making space for something entirely different. Your soulmate may also be walking through a similar transformation. While you wonder why nothing seems to be happening, they may be confronting fears they have carried since childhood, letting go of old relationships, healing disappointments, or discovering parts of themselves they never knew existed. Two journeys unfolding separately can still be moving toward the same destination. Timing is not only about calendars, it is about emotional readiness. This hidden message is not always spoken aloud. Sometimes it is expressed through unexpected opportunities, unlikely meetings, sudden changes in direction, or an unmistakable feeling that life is asking you to pay attention. The outer event becomes meaningful because of the inner change that has already taken place. Without that transformation, the same event might have passed unnoticed. Many people search endlessly for signs outside themselves while overlooking the quiet wisdom growing within. Intuition becomes stronger when fear becomes quieter. Clarity appears when constant mental noise begins to fade. The more deeply you understand yourself, the easier it becomes to recognize the people and paths that genuinely belong in your life. In that sense, your soulmate's shocking news is not racing toward the person you used to be. It is finding its way to the person you are becoming. Because only that version of you can truly hear its meaning and embrace the future it is meant to reveal. One of the greatest misunderstandings about soulmate connections is the belief that love alone is enough to unite two people. While love may create the possibility of a meaningful relationship, it does not automatically create the emotional maturity needed to sustain it. Before the outer reunion can happen, something much more important must take place within. The most profound relationships are not built on longing alone, but on transformation. If your soulmate truly has shocking news waiting for you, that message often arrives only after both individuals have become capable of hearing it without fear, insecurity, or illusion. Real transformation is rarely dramatic in the beginning. It often starts with quiet moments of discomfort that force you to examine parts of yourself you have spent years avoiding. You may begin questioning why certain relationships always ended the same way, or why you repeatedly attracted people who reflected your deepest fears instead of your deepest values. These questions are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are invitations to become more conscious of the patterns shaping your emotional life. Many people search for a soulmate while unknowingly carrying emotional wounds that distort the way they experience love. Past disappointments, betrayals, rejection, or abandonment can create invisible expectations that influence every new relationship. Without realizing it, the mind starts protecting itself by assuming history will repeat itself. It becomes easier to expect disappointment than to remain open to genuine connection. This protective habit may feel safe, but it also keeps authentic love at a distance. Inner transformation asks you to look beyond these automatic reactions. Instead of asking why someone else failed to love you correctly, you begin asking what fears have been silently directing your own choices. You notice how often you seek validation instead of mutual understanding. You recognize moments when insecurity speaks louder than trust. You become aware that many emotional battles are not created by the present moment, but by unresolved experiences from the past. As this awareness grows, something remarkable begins to change. Your identity becomes less dependent on external approval. You no longer feel compelled to chase people who constantly create confusion. You stop interpreting every silence as rejection and every delay as permanent loss. Rather than trying to control every outcome, you develop the confidence to let life unfold without abandoning your own sense of worth. This quiet confidence changes not only how you see yourself, but also the kind of relationships you naturally attract. At the same time, your soulmate may be experiencing a transformation that is equally significant. They may be confronting fears they never admitted, releasing attachments that no longer serve them, or learning lessons that could not have been taught through comfort alone. Their journey may look completely different from yours, yet both paths can be moving toward the same destination. Growth does not happen in identical ways, because every individual carries a unique history. But genuine connection often requires both people to become more emotionally honest before they can truly recognize one another. This process can feel frustrating because it unfolds beyond the limits of ordinary time. There may be moments when nothing appears to be changing on the surface, yet, beneath that stillness, old beliefs are dissolving and new perspectives are quietly taking root. What feels like delay is often a period of unseen preparation. Every difficult experience, every unexpected ending, and every moment of reflection contributes to the person you are becoming. When the inner world begins to change, the outer world often responds in surprising ways. Opportunities appear where there was once only uncertainty. Encounters that seemed impossible suddenly become natural. Conversations happen at exactly the right moment. The shocking news your soulmate carries is not simply about a future event or a dramatic confession. It is also about the realization that the person who is finally ready to receive that message is no longer the same person who once searched for it. By becoming more self-aware, emotionally grounded, and deeply connected to your own truth, you create the conditions in which genuine love can enter your life without being overshadowed by fear, confusion, or the weight of the past. Life has a remarkable way of bringing its greatest turning points disguised as ordinary moments. Many people imagine that if something truly extraordinary were about to happen in their love life, it would arrive with obvious signs and unmistakable certainty. Yet reality often unfolds in a far more mysterious way. The most unexpected changes rarely announce themselves in advance. They appear quietly, hidden inside events that initially seem confusing, disappointing, or even unrelated to love. The shocking news your soulmate carries may not arrive in the form you have imagined, because transformation has a habit of breaking expectations before revealing a deeper truth. Human beings naturally become attached to specific outcomes. We create detailed pictures of how love should appear, when it should happen, and who should be part of the story. These expectations provide a sense of control, but they can also become invisible barriers. When reality unfolds differently, the mind often interprets the unexpected as failure instead of possibility. An opportunity is dismissed because it does not match an old fantasy. A meaningful encounter is overlooked because it arrives through unfamiliar circumstances. Sometimes, the greatest surprise is not what happens, but the realization that what you once wanted was never what you truly needed. Unexpected change often begins with an ending. A relationship that seemed permanent suddenly comes to a close. A long-held plan falls apart. Someone you depended on walks away without explanation. In those moments, it is easy to believe that life is moving against you. Yet endings have a unique ability to create space for experiences that could never have entered your life otherwise. What feels like loss today may quietly become the doorway through which your future arrives. The mind focuses on what has disappeared, while life is already preparing what comes next. There are also moments when change arrives through simple coincidences that seem too meaningful to ignore. You decide to take a different route home and meet someone unexpected. You reconnect with an old acquaintance after years of silence. A conversation you almost avoided leaves a lasting impression. A decision that appeared insignificant becomes the beginning of an entirely new direction. These moments remind us that life is not always shaped by dramatic choices. Sometimes the smallest events carry the greatest consequences because they occur at exactly the right time. The same unexpected movement may also be taking place in your soulmate life. While you imagine they are standing still, they may be experiencing profound shifts that neither of you could have predicted. A career change, a personal awakening, the ending of an unhealthy relationship, or a deep realization about what truly matters can completely alter the course of their journey. These experiences may seem unrelated on the surface, yet they are often preparing them to meet you with greater honesty, emotional maturity, and openness than would have been possible before. One of the greatest surprises is that love often arrives after you stop trying to force it. This does not mean giving up on connection. It means releasing the exhausting need to control every detail. When your attention returns to your own growth, your own purpose, and your own inner balance, you naturally become more present. You notice opportunities you once overlooked. You recognize genuine kindness instead of chasing empty excitement. Your decisions become guided by wisdom rather than fear. In this state, life has room to surprise you because your vision is no longer narrowed by desperation or rigid expectations. The shocking news your soulmate brings may ultimately have very little to do with dramatic words and everything to do with unexpected timing. It may arrive after a season when you believed nothing was changing. It may emerge from circumstances you once considered setbacks. It may reveal that every twist, delay, and unanswered question was quietly leading both of you toward a meeting that could only happen after you had become different people. The greatest surprise is often discovering that what once seemed like chaos was actually a hidden pattern guiding two lives toward the same destination, revealing that the unexpected was never working against you, but preparing you for a future far greater than you could have planned yourself. One of the most difficult parts of any deep emotional connection is silence. When communication fades, when answers do not come, or when the future feels uncertain, the mind immediately begins creating stories to explain what is happening. It assumes the worst, believing that distance means rejection, that waiting means failure, or that silence means the connection has been lost forever. Yet silence has a purpose that is often misunderstood. It is not always empty. Sometimes it is filled with invisible change. The absence of clear answers does not necessarily mean that nothing is happening. In many cases, silence becomes the very space where the most important transformation begins. Human beings naturally seek certainty because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. We want immediate explanations, instant reassurance, and visible proof that everything is moving in the right direction. But meaningful relationships are rarely built through constant certainty. They grow through moments that require trust, patience, and self-reflection. When external confirmation disappears, you are invited to discover whether your inner stability depends entirely on someone else's actions or whether it can exist independently. This realization is one of the greatest emotional lessons a person can experience. Silence often forces you to confront parts of yourself that daily distractions keep hidden. Without constant messages, conversations, or reassurance, unresolved fears begin to rise to the surface. You may notice a fear of abandonment, a fear of not being enough, or a fear that love will always disappear. These emotions are uncomfortable, but they are not appearing to punish you. They are appearing because they have been waiting to be acknowledged. Until they are understood, they quietly influence every relationship you enter. Many people mistake emotional intensity for genuine connection. They believe that constant communication, endless attention, or dramatic emotional highs are proof of lasting love. Yet relationships built only on emotional excitement often become unstable because they leave little room for individual growth. Silence interrupts that cycle. It removes the constant stimulation and creates an opportunity to develop emotional independence. Instead of relying on another person to define your worth, you begin discovering a deeper sense of confidence that comes from within. Your soulmate may also be experiencing their own season of silence. While you wonder why they have become distant, they may be facing personal struggles they have never shared with anyone. They may be questioning old beliefs, healing painful memories, or trying to understand emotions they have avoided for years. Not every battle is visible from the outside. Sometimes the quietest people are carrying the heaviest emotional burdens. Their silence is not always a rejection of you. It can be the result of an inner process that requires time, honesty, and courage. There is also a hidden wisdom in delayed timing. If two people meet before they are emotionally prepared, even a powerful connection can become overwhelmed by fear, insecurity, or misunderstanding. One person may still be holding on to the past. The other may still be searching for validation instead of partnership. In such moments, love alone cannot overcome emotional unreadiness. The period of silence becomes a form of preparation rather than separation. It allows both individuals to develop qualities that make a healthier relationship possible in the future. During these quiet seasons, subtle changes begin taking place. Your perspective becomes clearer. You stop chasing people who offer confusion instead of clarity. You become more selective about the energy you allow into your life. You learn to recognize the difference between loneliness and genuine love. These lessons cannot be taught through constant comfort, because comfort often keeps hidden patterns untouched. Silence, however, reveals them with remarkable honesty. The greatest surprise is that what once felt like an unbearable absence may later become the very reason the relationship succeeds. Without that period of waiting, important emotional wounds might never have healed. Without distance, necessary self-discovery might never have happened. Without unanswered questions, deeper wisdom might never have emerged. The silence that once seemed like the end of the story often becomes the quiet bridge between who you once were and who you need to become, allowing both you and your soulmate to move toward one another with greater understanding, stronger emotional foundations, and a love that is no longer driven by fear, but strengthened through patience, growth, and the quiet work that only silence can accomplish. Long before a life-changing moment becomes visible in the outer world, subtle changes often begin to unfold within. Most people expect dramatic signs that clearly announce an important turning point, but the deepest transformations usually reveal themselves through quiet shifts in awareness. The mind is trained to notice obvious events, while the heart often recognizes patterns that cannot be explained by logic alone. When your soulmate's shocking news is drawing closer, you may begin sensing that something inside you is changing, even if nothing around you appears different. These inner movements are not about predicting the future with certainty. They are reminders that your emotional world is becoming more aligned with a new chapter that is waiting to unfold. One of the first signs is an unexpected sense of emotional clarity. Situations that once confused you began making sense. You stop replaying old conversations in your mind, searching for answers that never came. Instead of feeling trapped by the past, you notice a growing ability to accept what has happened without allowing it to define your future. This shift is significant because it reflects a mind that is no longer controlled by unresolved emotions. Clarity creates space for new experiences to enter where confusion once lived. Another sign is the appearance of meaningful coincidences that seem too consistent to ignore. You may repeatedly encounter the same numbers, symbols, names, or places during ordinary moments. Certain songs may unexpectedly remind you of emotions you thought had disappeared. You might hear a phrase from a stranger that perfectly reflects a question you have been carrying in silence. While these experiences should not be treated as absolute proof of destiny, they can encourage deeper reflection. They invite you to become more aware of your inner life and the connections you may have overlooked while moving through everyday routines. Dreams can also become unusually vivid during periods of emotional transformation. Rather than offering literal predictions, dreams often communicate through symbols that reveal hidden feelings, forgotten memories, or possibilities that your conscious mind has not yet fully recognized. You may dream of meeting someone in an unfamiliar place, crossing a bridge, opening a locked door, or finding yourself in a completely new landscape. These images often represent psychological change rather than physical events. They suggest that your inner world is preparing for a transition before your outer circumstances begin to reflect it. Your intuition may also become stronger in subtle but meaningful ways. You begin trusting quiet feelings instead of relying only on constant analysis. Decisions that once required endless overthinking suddenly feel simple. You recognize when something aligns with your values and when it does not. This growing confidence is not based on certainty about the future, but on a deeper relationship with yourself. As fear becomes quieter, intuition becomes easier to hear. Another powerful sign is a shift in your relationships with other people. Conversations that once felt meaningful may now seem empty. You naturally distance yourself from environments filled with negativity, drama, or emotional dishonesty. At the same time, you feel drawn toward people who encourage growth, authenticity, and peace. This change does not happen because you are rejecting others. It happens because your inner priorities are changing. As your emotional world evolves, your external relationships begin reflecting those new values. You may also notice a growing sense of peace that seems unrelated to your circumstances. Problems may still exist, and unanswered questions may remain, yet you no longer feel consumed by constant anxiety about what will happen next. Instead of desperately trying to force outcomes, you begin trusting that not everything needs to be controlled. This quiet confidence is one of the strongest indicators of inner transformation because it reflects emotional maturity rather than wishful thinking. Perhaps the most meaningful sign of all is that you stop waiting for someone else to complete your life. You continue pursuing your goals, caring for yourself, and finding purpose beyond the idea of a relationship. Paradoxically, this is often when genuine connection becomes possible. When your happiness is no longer dependent on another person's arrival, you become capable of meeting love with openness instead of fear. The shocking news your soulmate carries is not simply about a future event, but about the person you have become while preparing to receive it.